Thousands and thousands of people have waited hours on the side of the road to catch a glimpse of the Queen's coffin, which has travelled through the streets of Scotland for 6 hours from Balmoral to Edinburgh.
Royal editor at the Daily Mirror, Russell Myers, joins us now in London. Russell, great to have you here at the end of your long day there, but thank you so much for staying up for us. The moment the coffin left Balmoral, we were given our first glimpse of a single white wreath on top. But that really makes it hit home, doesn't it, that the Queen is indeed gone?
Well, it does, and I think we've seen so many scenes from all around the country, indeed all around the world, of this outpouring of emotion towards Queen Elizabeth II. But seeing her coffin there, draped in the Scottish standard, the flowers taken from the Balmoral estate, it has really hit home that this is an occasion of just such seismic proportions, and I think it's only going to ramp up throughout the week, and there'll be plenty more tributes and plenty more iconic scenes like this, I think.
Well, one of the most striking images of the day, I think, was seeing Princess Anne. She was a part of the convoy, looking incredibly sombre. She'll also have the duty of travelling, accompanying the coffin in the plane to London as well. You can only imagine the grief she's carrying, Russell. It's an enormous responsibility.
Well, it is. I mean, and you're seeing in your pictures there, she looked absolutely bereft, didn't she? And there was a real tender moment, actually, when the coffin was being brought into the Palace of Holyrood House this evening, where the Countess of Wessex actually put her hand on her shoulder, and she just looked absolutely forlorn. I mean, that is a huge responsibility that she has undertaken. When Her Majesty does eventually return to London, Princess Anne will be travelling with her on an RAF jet, and I think that the whole family are really united in their grief and just trying to do what they can to just try and get through this week and give Her Majesty the send-off that she deserves.
It's such beautiful imagery to see her, and so sad to see her, curtsy before the coffin as it comes out. This journey from Balmoral to Edinburgh, it's a very significant one, really, for the country itself, for Scotland. But it's also the first step in a journey that's going to take another week, right?
Well, it is indeed. I mean, we're starting in the Palace of Holyrood House. That is the Queen's, or indeed the Sovereign's, residence in Edinburgh. And then tomorrow, we will see the coffin go from the palace to St Giles Cathedral in Scotland, in Edinburgh. We're expecting huge crowds. Indeed, it's going to be the first opportunity for members of the public to queue up and pay their respects, where it will lie in rest for 24 hours. We're going to see King Charles and the Queen Consort returning back to Scotland, and they will lead the procession, taking the coffin to the cathedral. And then on Tuesday, the Queen will be returning to Buckingham Palace. As we just mentioned, she will be on that RAF jet with Princess Anne. And then she will stay there for a further 24 hours before there is a huge London procession on Wednesday. And that then starts a lying in state process, where the Queen will lie in Westminster Hall in London, an opportunity once again for people to come and pay their respects. And for over 4 days, organisers are expecting 1 million people to try and queue up over 24 hours a day to try and be part of this final journey.
And what do we know so far about the state funeral that will be held next Monday, the 19th of September? I understand it's the last royal funeral held at Westminster Abbey was King George II in 1760, which gives you a sense of the gravity of this occasion.
Well, it does. I mean, at every twist and turn, we are watching history unfold before our very eyes. However, the last state funeral was indeed of this magnitude. I would say it's Winston Churchill's, and obviously that he was the Queen's first Prime Minister. So that's how far you are going back. We know that it's definitely taking place on Monday, the 19th of September. It will take place at 11 o'clock in the morning. The Queen will be, her coffin will be removed from Westminster Hall at 6:30 in the morning on Monday, and such an occasion it will be, because we are going to see a cascade of world leaders, Commonwealth heads of government, just descend on the city, and they were expecting huge crowds. I think we're really reaching a crescendo over the course of the week. You saw the crowds turn out in force all across Scotland, and indeed Edinburgh today, and I think that the sort of the feeling is really building that we are not only witnessing something huge, but we have also lost something immeasurable as well.
We did. And now, Russ, we can't let you go before talking about, obviously, yesterday when the Fab Four reunited in their grief and walked out of the gates there at Windsor. We can see them once again. Are we expected to see maybe even just Harry and Wills again soon?
Well, no, my understanding is this is very much of a temporary truce. It was described to me this afternoon, and I think that the Prince of Wales took the initiative to think about the issues at hand, and that is that the Queen's passing is so much bigger than the rift or the arguments these four have had in recent months, and indeed he sort of extended that olive branch to his brother. It was accepted. There was a bit of a delay in the walkabout, about 45 minutes, but when you saw them together, I mean, it was just quite a sad moment, really, because I just think everybody thought what we have lost in their relationships as well. There was such sort of a real positivity when they first came on the scene, and I think that unfortunate fracturedness of the relationship has ended in quite a sad situation.
I was reading this morning, Russell, that there is some suggestion that Harry and Meghan may arrange for Archie and Lilibet to travel across to London for the funeral of their great-grandmother. What more do we know about that?
Well, again, not very much. I mean, there was a discussion whether Harry would stay. So Harry was definitely going to stay for the full week. There was some obviously discussion whether Meghan would fly back to California and then return to the UK. Of course, they've got two small children who most probably know very, very little. Certainly, even Archie know very, very little of what has happened. But yes, of course, I don't think anyone would begrudge them of that. These two young children have been away from their parents for nearly a week now. So. Listen, I think that as the Prince of Wales showed yesterday, there is plenty time for unity in this awful situation that is unfolding, and hopefully that what the Queen didn't manage to see in her lifetime, then unity is hopefully what will happen in her passing.
Well, it's Monday here. It's going to be Monday until the funeral. A week is a very, very long time in a family when they're talking about grief and unity. Maybe more can happen. Russell Myers, always great to have you here. Get some sleep, mate. We'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Russell.
I mean, we just know that there's a lot of, chatter online about the Fab Four and people's emotions about this. But I think at the end of the day, we are seeing a family grieving it all the time. We have to always bear that in mind when we're talking about them. I know that you and I posted photos on our Instagram, the same photos.
Yeah.
And I spoke to this boy and said, well, RIP my mentions, because it was just a nightmare there. People fighting with each other over this photo.
The connection between the brothers, or lack thereof at the moment, is something that triggers high emotion in people everywhere, which I think is why it was so significant for them to see or to put on a united front yesterday outside Windsor Castle with their wives as well. And of course, there is a sense of hope that there will be more of that to come, but of course they do have a lot to work through. And we should mention they are grieving and sharing their grief in a very public way, which you would have to expect would compound it even more significantly. So
I couldn't help but feeling as well when we saw those pictures of Harry. I think it might have been the Russell in the Mirror or somewhere else in one of the English papers. They put back-to-back pictures of Harry going into Balmoral this time around and a young Harry, being driven when his mother had died. And this is the thing, we are projecting onto these boys so much. They are sort of bound by grief from when they were boys. And so I think we are so protective of them because of that. And I think we need to also recognise that, they're also men now and that, things happen. People grow and evolve and maybe they need to have their own independence.
Well, they are staying very close by in Windsor at this point in time. So there are hopefully opportunities for them to come together and potentially mend some of that rift.
G'day, it's Ali.
And Karl.
Thanks for watching the Today YouTube channel.
Subscribe now for brand new videos every day and exclusive bonus clips.
Ali, say please.
Please? Why?
Please? I don't know.